Welcome to the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations with Marti, Daly, and Robin Duke. Join us and our team of health professionals, holistic practitioners, and coaches as we talk openly about the ups, downs, and everything in between when it comes to navigating the Menowave of menopause.
Welcome to the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations. I'm Coach Robin, and this is Coach Marti. We have Dr. Manon with us, and we are so happy to have her. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here today.
With 30 years of experience as a holistic chiropractic physician, Dr. Manon specializes in restoring health using gentle chiropractic methods, nutrition, herbal medicine, exercise, and energy healing. Recently, she has expanded her focus to support women dealing with menopause and aging. Driven by her commitment to holistic healing, she obtained a master's degree in counseling and became a certified energy codes coach. Today, she proudly identifies as a holistic therapeutic menopause coach dedicated to fostering complete healing of the mind, body, and spirit. So we're very delighted to have you on our podcast. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we always like to start with what we call a Meno moment. It's an experience we have because, like our audience, we too are in various stages of the menopause journey. And I'll just go ahead and start with mine because I've been sick. And I just noticed that everything bothers you more when you're sick. And I kind of laugh about it because I'm just like every little thing. I mean, I came into this menopause journey because of the emotional side of things was kind of just out of character for me. And, with my own work and with learning from our other practitioners and just on my own journey, that's not so much a challenge as it was a couple of years ago. But man, when you get sick, it's like every little thing just sends me either into a rage or into tears. So I've just been laughing. I was like, I know it's my hormones. I'm just like, oh, this is not good, Marti. So I was very proud of myself I just put myself back to bed. Friday, I didn't get out of bed. Saturday, I was up about half the day. And I just, allowed myself to let go of all the work, the perceived work that I've got piled up. I think I said, no, my number one priority is to let my body rest. Because if I've learned anything from doing this podcast and working with ladies as well, is start listening. We're going to talk about this more, is listen to my body. What does my body need? And my body was telling me, you need rest. My family was telling me, you need to go in there by yourself. So that was mine. How about you, Dr. Manon?
I understand what you're saying. For me, I had a lot of those ups and down emotions also when I was going through the worst of my menopause. And one of the things that really, I had never had this kind of problem before this, but I started having very severe anxiety and to the point of a panic attack. And I didn't know what it was at the time. And I remember when this all started, my whole mind understanding what menopause was all about, I was going into a professional meeting and I all of a sudden, my mind went blank, forgot everything that I was going to talk about and realized I just could not go into that meeting. I would have just been standing there like an idiot. And so that was kind of the tipping point for me where I started realizing I had to do something to make a shift with that. That was a good thing though, because I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about menopause, and these are things that now I can bring to my clients as well. My idea is to compress time suffering. So I suffered this long. If you learn from me, we can bring it down a little bit. We can learn from each other.
Well, I can relate to both of you. I've had moments when I have totally had that panic attack and blinked out and, tried to remember what it is that I'm supposed to be saying or doing at the moment. And I think my Meno moment is just managing my energy level in the wintertime. And my energy level seems to be a little bit lower than it is the rest of the year, just because of the time of the year, the seasons. And with it being winter and cold and mostly gray and dark and not getting a lot of really good light, even though I'm outside. It can be a little bit of a struggle. So I do listen within, and that's kind of my motto this year is listen within to what's going on inside. What do I need to pay attention to? What is my body telling me? What is its needs? And, sleep, rest, getting back to eating for the seasons. For me, I do a lot of soups in the winter time just because it keeps me nice and warm, and that's what my body needs. Getting enough rest, getting my supplements in, getting my walks in, drinking a lot of water and tea and different things like that. So those are things that I do for my self-care during this time. But yeah, definitely for me, I'm sensitive to the seasons. So I pay attention to what's going on inside of me and what my body needs, and give myself permission from time to time. If I need to take a day and just, rest, I give myself that permission to rest and take care of myself. Dr. Manon, can you tell us a little bit more about what is a holistic therapeutic menopause coach and who needs somebody like that?
Okay, and it is Menopause Plus, because I start with menopause, go all the way up through aging women, because it's a continuum, right? But I feel like things really shift in our midlife in that 50-ish, 45, 50 range. I'm almost 70 now. So I've been through the menopause and I'm in the plus, but I understand that process. And I know that what I'm trying to do is help women in the menopause period, because when you make changes earlier, they affect you as you get older. When you hit menopause, you start aging 6% faster. That's what research shows.
Wow.
But that can be slowed down by changes in our lifestyle. The earlier we start, the better off we will be as we get older.
So how early should we start? I mean, is there an age period, or is there like a time when we know we're in perimenopause, or is it once menopause that year goes by and we're in menopause or postmenopause?
That's a really good question. When they look at women in the blue zones, which are the areas of the world where people live into their hundreds healthily, riding their bicycles, taking care of their cows, all these kind of things, it has been their lifestyle their whole life, right? It's not just something they started at menopause, but they don't have the same kind of menopause we do. So in our culture, part of the reasons we have so many problems and difficulties in menopause is because our lifestyle was not great to begin with. You may have thought it was, but it was based on what you learned from your family, what you got from social media, what you got from advertising, a lot of advertising, right? The cereals and whatever. I grew up on cereal. So, my lifestyle was not great when I was younger. And it really hit me a little bit earlier than menopause, like in my 30s, when I became a chiropractor, when I started learning more about health. So my answer is, it would be great if we were teaching this to our kids and starting, then. But if you don't, you can start whenever. You start as soon as you can.
Start as you know, as soon as you know.
You become aware,
right,
the sooner you can change and reverse that aging process. So I have a quiz that is called the Menopause Plus Aging Quiz, and it shows there are 20 questions, and it looks at different lifestyle factors that have had research demonstrating that if you do things a particular way, you can either add years to your life, healthy years to your life, or you can subtract from your chronological age. So that's called your biological age. Your biological age is what you really are inside. Your chronological age is from the date you were born. So if you want to live longer and healthier, there are things that you can do starting right now, lifestyle things. So I'm talking about diet, exercise, supplementation, medications. There's a whole range of them. There were 20 of them that were the most important based on the research. So a holistic therapeutic, getting back to that question, is involving all of those factors, your body, your diet, your exercise, your supplementation, and you have to supplement, especially if you have not been eating correctly your whole life. You're going to need more supplementation because you kind of have to catch up. Yeah. And also, I have in my course, this is something that I teach, is that we don't have the nutrients in our soil anymore. You probably have heard that, but it's actually more extreme than people realize. There's probably about less than 50, even more, 50 to 70% of certain nutrients are completely gone from the soil. So you cannot get them in your food, no matter how good you eat. So there are some things that you have to supplement. And there is a worldwide deficiency in magnesium because of that, worldwide deficiency in vitamin D, and various different nutrients. And I actually just published this in the menopause site about what the most important deficiencies are. But as a holistic coach, those are things that we're working with. In terms of the therapeutic, because it requires a change in your mindset. It's not just what you put in your body, it's changing the thought process. Because if you're negative thinking and you have these, for one, if you have this chatter that's constantly going and you don't know how to quiet it down, you were talking about listening within. You can't listen within if your mind's going, blah, 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 with all the stuff that from past, and a lot of it is unconscious, probably 90% they say is unconscious. And the more things that have happened to you in your life, like micro and macro traumas, the more of that unconscious behavior you have. And that's what we were talking about earlier with the self-love. If you don't love yourself, you cannot be healthy, because you're not going to be able to, one, listen within. You're going to always be attracting things that are in the same wavelength, so to speak, frequency as those thoughts are. Mm-hmm. So if you're having negative thoughts, you're bringing in all that negativity. You're fighting with your spouse, so you have bad relationships. You're fighting with a partner, with friends. You're constantly in your environment magnifying what's going on inside of you.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think a lot of people, I mean, I totally get that, because that's like the kind of part of the foundation of the background that I have as well. But I think a lot of women don't really get that. They're like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to, negative self-talk, whatever. I love myself. I'm right. Pretty. It's that almost like forced that they're not connecting with it in here. Can you share just a little bit, like when you say like attracting the frequency of what we're putting out there? If we're constantly fighting with our spouse, which in and of itself is its own challenge, but do you mind sharing just a little bit about what that is doing with like energetically of the frequency? And then we'll talk more about energy as well.
That is something that, I don't know if you all have ever read the book Power versus Force. It really opened my eyes. It's written by David Hawkins. And he has a chart in there that makes it very, very clear that different emotions have different frequencies. So on the bottom is shame and blame and anger and desire and all those kind of emotions. And the reason I started studying that is because I was very involved with the addiction world, because I had a daughter who was a heroin addict at the time, same time I'm going through menopause.
Wow.
And I realized that the whole addiction mentality was all that blame. There's a lot of shame because they are looked at as, we think of addicts, it's a very, very negative connotation. We don't think of them as humans. I mean, that's an addict laying on the ground with their needle there. We kind of dehumanized it. And it's very unfortunate that happened. But anyway, they carry that with them for years and years, unless they can change that. But because of that shame and blame and desire and that feeling inside of them, that's why their world does not really shift. That's why it's so hard to get over addiction. So until they start raising their vibration. So what does that mean? So love and joy and happiness and enlightenment, or that feeling that we get when we meditate, when we are listening within, we bring in that higher energy, and that is when your life will change. That is when your life can shift. But because those have, so I'll give you an example. That shame is the lowest. It's rated as a 30. When you get up to enlightenment and joy, it's like close to 1,000. So there's this multiplicative effect of that high level energy that you are attracting. So in terms of menopause, getting to that, when you're in pain or you're suffering from something, and you can raise your vibration with some of the techniques that we teach, that you teach and that I teach, like the self-love, the heart math, the EFT, all these things that help us raise our vibration. It's not just that is changing us. It's because we find ourselves in the right place at the right time. We're connecting with the right people. We're putting out that positivity. So we're getting along with people, and people are then helping us. So we really expand our entire universe of support in our life, instead of being isolated and alone. And isn't that one of the things that you hear from a lot of the women in menopause, how isolated they feel? That's that vibration, that lower vibration. And there's probably a lot of shame and those kind of feelings in there, that they're not understanding why their body and mind are doing this to them. And it's probably something that they learned also from their own mothers.
Yeah, you pick it up from all kinds. You pick it up from, obviously, the females, your mothers, your grandmothers, your sisters, your friends, that type of thing. But there's also all kinds of just piling on of all these messages that we get from authority figures, from media, that just piles it all on. And I like what you said, because that's the way I look at it too. But it's almost like if you look at like a radio frequency, and then you're vibing down here in shame, and you really want to be up here in something else. A lot of people too feel like it's too big of a bridge to cross, to try to get from down here at the lowest levels to up into joy and bliss and acceptance and all of that. And that's one of the reasons that people work with people like Robin and you and myself, is there's different ways to kind of start shifting the way that our mindset, because that's what we're putting out there. If we're carrying around this unresolved shame, or from any of those traumas or anything, we think that we can handle it, and we think that it's not that big of a deal. But a lot of people don't really understand how powerful those thoughts can be, especially when we allow ourselves to kind of start ruminating over them, and then you start building on it, and it's like a snowball going down that hill. And then one thing I'll add on there, I found kind of actually helpful, is it doesn't have to go from down at the bottom to the top in one fell swoop. There are levels. I look at it from a different way. I have a similar but different chart, and there are emotions that are kind of stopgaps, that are raising your vibration. They're tuning that radio dial to a more positive, but it's not happy, joy. I mean, boredom is actually higher than shame, kind of thing.
You have to kind of go through,
Yeah.
And a good example of that is in the addiction world, where they get people who have stopped using to help other people. That's the humanity part. Now, they may not feel great themselves. They may not feel like they've accomplished a whole lot, but when you help someone else, when you're kind to someone else, that's another level of emotion. You may not be, like you said, joyful and in enlightenment, but you're doing something that's human, and it does raise your vibration so that you can then continue up into other levels.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I know that when I work with my clients, that's one of the things that I say is, like, if you're stuck in the poor me, oh me, everything's terrible, you got to turn that around and go help somebody, because just that act takes you completely out of that vibration of, oh, poor me, and makes you realize that there are so many other people out there that are suffering, that need that human touch, that love from you, and that raises your vibration up.
Absolutely.
The second thing that I wanted to say is, when we're in menopause, not only does our body change, our mind, our everything, the emotional part of us changes as well. And whatever we had gone through growing up, all the different traumas, they become magnified. And so it's a process of us now realizing, oh, wow, we've slowed down enough to allow all the emotions to start coming back in and start feeling again.
Right.
And so that also leads us not only to, good and happy memories of like maybe raising our kids and those kinds of great memories, but also probably, the trauma memories as well. And now that we're shifting our focus from maybe, we're not in our job, career, or raising kids or that sort of thing. Now we have more time to, start focusing on what's going on with us. And whether you like it or not, or that you're aware of it or not, those emotions are starting to come out. And what are you doing with those? How are you processing them? How are you allowing them to release and heal and bring some joy back in, some peace back in, and raise that vibration? So it's a whole body mind connection. And you have to understand how that process is working with inside of you at the ages that we are.
Doesn't it just break your heart? And I get this with my own clients, and I'm sure you guys have as well, of, people just they're so terrified of any emotion, any negativity, any of these feelings coming up. And I'm like, they need to come up. They need to be released. And I've had clients that they're like, no, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I've already dealt with this, whatever that is. And it has nothing to do with what I'm going through. And while I don't want to argue, usually that's not necessarily true. Yeah, they may have dealt with it in a different context, but the school of thought that I was trained in is like, if it keeps coming back up, then let's take a look at it. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go and relive every single moment of it, but there are elements that if it's coming back up, it's kind of like a tap on the shoulder of, this feeling. Maybe it's not necessarily this exact situation that was maybe very painful and traumatic, but it's the feeling that we need to deal with, that we need to, look at. We need to either reframe or release or decide, let that go. And there's the three of us all have different techniques of doing that. But I want to say to the women listening that let's take a look at that, because if it's coming up, there's no need to be afraid of these emotions, because we all have them and they're dying to come up. They're like begging to come up, which is why they're spewing like a shaken up soda can. But also, if you're really afraid of what is coming up and what that might mean, there are women, there are practitioners with three of us and others in the group that we can help you with that. We can help you safely deal with it and let it go. Because once it's gone, then you fill up with that feeling of like a release of itself, of relief, which raises your frequency, raises your vibration. It's talking more about vibrations and energy and all that. I'd like to just dig in a little bit more. What are energy codes? When we talk about energy, like, what is all this?
Very good question. So we learned in school that there's energy and matter, right? Mm-hmm. All this hard stuff is matter. And everything out here is energy. What the scientists know now is that everything is energy. It's just a continuum of different frequencies, where we are very dense energy. Our bodies are very dense energy. So that's actually a very exciting thing in terms of being able to change, because if we are all energy and we can learn how to shift that energy, that means we can actually shift anything in our lives. And like you were saying, Marty, we can't always see it going from where we are now to where we are, this big goal where we're living on the beach and riding off in the horses, but there are ways of getting there. And if you can't envision it, or you don't understand that you could do that and that there is a process, then you hold yourself back from really transforming your life. And I think that menopause, because so many things are coming up, it's a perfect opportunity for us to be able to work with women that are going through that, to make that transfer, to start this transformation process and bring out, as we clear out these traumas. And it could be micro trauma. It doesn't have to be any major thing. It could be someone, when you were a kid, really yelled at you when you were really happy, and all of a sudden your whole life just like, caved in. Those are little traumas, and that really does affect us. And as we open that up, we develop a wisdom as women that is so needed in the world. And this is something I wanted to bring out today, is that we can really make an impact on peace and worldwide change starting in menopause because of the way we can shift. And as we deal with these issues and we help people understand that we have the capacity, then we can also help women use their wisdom and their gifts to make that transformation out here. So the energy is stored in the body. So when we have a trauma in the energy codes, one of the first things we do is look for it in the body. There's almost always a heaviness, a tingling, a pain, or something that is where it is lodged in here, because every cell has a memory, every single cell. And that's something that they know now that they did not know years ago when I was in school, that's for sure. But because it's all energetic and our mind can control our energy, we can change that. We can shift that. And there's actually now, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, I don't know if you follow his work at all with energy, but he talks about how really genetics is a blueprint. It does not have to be what actually happens. We can shift that with our thoughts, which are energy. We can shift that. So, and I just give a little example that most people could really understand. You know, when people have women have the breast cancer gene, it's very scary because the medical profession really harps on that. And a lot of women have their breasts removed and that kind of thing because of that. Only 50% of those women get breast cancer. I mean, that's a high percentage, but it's also a low percentage. What about the other 50%? What are they doing differently that they have the same gene and it's supposed to cause breast cancer, but they don't get breast cancer? I think that's the bigger question here. How do we shift our energy and not turn on that gene? And there are ways to do that.
What would some of examples be? I mean, not like here's a prescription for that, but just as far as changing the energy that would impact how our body would respond.
So you have all the lifestyle factors, right? What's the internal environment? We now know that at certain levels, vitamin D can prevent 83% of cancers when your level is 60 nanograms per deciliter or above. So that's an internal environment way that you can shift that energy. Then there's also the thought. If you constantly are thinking about getting breast cancer, you're going to invite that into your life. And that definitely has been proven as well with all kinds of cancers, not just breast cancer. But our thoughts are energy. So that's something that we work on with the energy codes. The energy codes was developed by Dr. Sue Morter. She was a chiropractor. Her father was the first energy chiropractor in the world, teaching an energy technique that was chiropractic related. She took it to a whole new level. She also teaches with the chakras and being able to shift your energy with certain yoga poses, for example. So for each chakra that is blocked, there are different yoga poses that can help clear that out. And let me give an example. So you have your throat chakra. The shoulder stand stimulates this area, thyroid and throat. And that's one yoga pose that can help clear that blockage. So you're focusing on the area and you're sending love to it while you're in this pose. And it really is amazing how that works. Now, for women in menopause, that's a very important part because women who have blocked chakra in this area don't feel they have a voice. So they don't feel that they're being listened to. So there's some characteristics and symptoms. Actually, I just did a video on that in the group that I'd love to actually teach again, that each chakra that is blocked has different symptoms, physical and emotional and thought-wise, that go with it. So that's one of them that I found that a lot of women in menopause can really relate to. And, this is something that I really relate to because when I was younger, I used to yell a lot. My mom, when she went through menopause, she would yell at everybody. She threw things at my dad. she was a yeller, and I grew up that way. So when I got married and I was not happy and I didn't feel like I was being listened to, I raised my voice. Years later, my dad started saying, remember that E.F. Hutton commercial where E.F. Hutton talks and it's very quiet and everybody listens? He said, you should practice that.
Right.
I started, realizing I didn't have to yell or talk really loud for people to hear me. And if you talk really quietly, people are actually listening even harder. So I think I still talk louder than some people do, but I don't yell anymore.
That's really interesting. Just understanding the whole dynamics and just kind of looking at that whole picture that you were explaining as far as chakras. And we have, is it five chakras? Seven chakras. Thank you. And that each of them affect different parts of our body, and they can get stuck depending on the types of traumas that we have gone through in our life. They do affect those areas, those different chakras. Mm-hmm. So in your practice, how would you clear a chakra if you identified it and it was something that you knew was stuck or had some negative energy in there? How would you clear that?
Well, so I had just given one way that I was talking about with the yoga postures, and that's definitely one of them. EFT, and also one that we call generating loving presence. So we do a body scan and find what area. So combination of feeling in your body. So like you were saying, listening within, and also looking at the symptoms associated with each one. And somebody actually might have an actual thyroid problem, for instance, or they may get headaches a lot, and that's like the crown chakra. Mm-hmm. And so there are different organs, obviously, within each. And with menopause, with the loss of hormones from the ovaries, you have your sacral chakra, and that one is also a very big one in menopause. So if that is the area that you're trying to clear, we do this exercise called generating loving presence, where we focus on the heart and picture and visualize and feel love for a specific person or a pet or something that we could really, really feel in our body. And we work on that and keep intensifying it, and then send it to that chakra and improve the communication from the heart to that area, because in the energy codes, love is the universal solvent. It will dissolve anything. And the more you practice that, the easier it gets, and the more you can see the actual validity of that happening. So that's one way that we work with the chakras.
I first started understanding chakras right when I was going through my hypnosis training about 15 years ago, because it was like a year or so after I was diagnosed with an autoimmune thyroid disease. And when I started learning about, not feeling like I had a voice and that kind of trauma of not ever feeling like I could express myself growing up in my marriages, because my marriage was falling apart at the time. It was like a baseball bat almost to the head. Like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And I wish more than anything that I could have gone back in time and had learned all of this stuff before I saw a nuclear radioactive waste down my throat to destroy my very important chakra center. And because then that caused a whole lot of trauma in and of itself. So to your point, yes, I mean, thyroid, voice, totally.
Yeah. So yeah, you can really relate to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what EFT is and why it's important and how you use it?
So EFT is an energy technique, emotional freedom technique, and it uses the different acupuncture points on your body to tap and energize in relation to using your mind to change the thought pattern of something negative that you're dealing with. It could be a negative thought pattern. It could be just something that's happening in your body, like you have a thyroid problem or you have a digestive problem. And I actually have used this a lot with my own digestive issues, and it's really made an immense difference. So, you have points here, here, here. I'll just go show you real quickly this here, here, here under the collarbone and under here. So those are the main points. And you have different phrases that you use and repeat and as you're tapping, and it starts to become integrated into your mind. So it's almost like hypnotherapy, but using it in a little different way. And what I really like about EFT is that it's a self-healing technique. So one thing I really, really strive to do in my practice with women is to teach self-healing techniques. So I might be guiding them initially, but I want them to be able to take this information and take these techniques to use forever. These are, because you're always going to have problems. You're always going to have things come up. It's never going to be completely hunky-dory. It just means that you have more tools now, and you don't need to feel like they're overwhelming, because you can overcome any kind of obstacle because you have the tools to do that.
That EFT, I learned that in my hypnosis training. I use it as a supplement for people who have cravings, whether it be, sugar cravings or smoking cravings, and there's other things too. But what I found personally is EFT has been wonderful for stopping asthma attacks. If I got somewhere without my inhaler at the gym or something, and I even had my stepson, we were away from home, asthma attack, just run through that.
Yeah.
It's also a way of changing the vibration of the thought as you're moving through it.
Exactly.
And
absolutely. If you're just so angry and you just can't control, run yourself through a couple of cycles. It takes you from a 10 down to a 2. That's improvement. That's a lot of improvement.
Right.
My daughter just taught this to her dad, who has pretty severe bipolar disorder. He's kind of physically and emotionally difficulties. But when he started doing it, he started being able to be a little more proactive for himself. Mm-hmm. And my daughter was like, you need to do something for yourself. And he said, okay, I promise I'm going to start doing EFT. He was having problems financially, and he lost his car. And when he started doing the tapping, he found a solution where he found a delivery service that was really cheap. And he started doing things for himself instead of trying to get my daughter to do everything for him. So it really is kind of an amazing.
It's an amazing tool.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, and it's tools, like you said, I really like going back to that, because when I work with my clients, I help them to develop their own tools. And there's so many out there, but you take what works for them and you help them to understand that you have tools. So in the moment, you can grab whatever it is that is going to work for you and be able to use it to keep calm, to change your vibration, to think through things, to be able to, change the vibration or the dynamic or the conversation, whatever it is that you're going through. And so that's so important, that we don't feel like we're just stuck in a black hole and nobody else was feeling the same way that we're feeling, and that we're not alone in this, and that we can come out of this. We have choices, we have options, we can change the way that we're thinking about a situation. But if you're not tuned in to what is currently going on with you, then how can you pick up any of these tools and use them if you don't start, number one, practicing listening to what is going on inside of you? Where are your emotions today? What's going on in your body? What is it that you need? I mean, and these are techniques that I work with my clients on, is to help them become more aware of what their emotional thought process is going on every day and inside of you. How do you wake up first thing in the morning? What goes through your mind? Are you, blessing yourself? Are you finding your joy to be able to? And for me, I like having my quiet time in the morning. That's the time that I meditate, that I pray, that I, get my mindset straight for the day. And sometimes, it's just sitting quietly and just listening. I find that really, for me, it anything that's bubbling up or that's still on my mind or that's still, becoming a problem, then, or it's a negative frequency, then I can take that at that point and I can use my tools to shift it, dissolve it, remove it, or solve it.
Do you ladies find, because we want to support as many women as we can, I teach these tools to my clients. I have this bucket of tools that I want to teach them to help reinforce the work that we're doing, to help give them, like you said, Robin, something that they can use forever. I use my EFT, I use my self-hypnosis tools. I use it all the time on myself. When something comes up, I know now it's like, oh, that's interesting. What is that about? Rather than like letting it send me into a tailspin. Okay, what's going on? Why did I feel that way about this situation? And I've learned that, and I know we all want to share that. And so what do you make of people that are like, they just don't want to be bothered with it? They're like, no, I just have to take a pill. I'd rather just want to take my whatever pharmaceutical they can get their hands on, because they just don't want to do that. I'm all for what's going to help you and help make life easier for you. And at the same time, this stuff isn't going to go away. You're just kicking the can down the road till it always is going to come back and bite you in a bigger way.
So Marti, my question then would be, and I understand what you're saying, why are you here?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're coming to us supposedly to have something a little bit alternative to the medical. And when Robin was talking, it really occurred to me how amazing what we're doing is, because we're being flexible with the client. We're finding things that work for them.
Right.
Opposed to having an algorithm that you have this problem, you take this medication, and that's all I have to offer. Yeah. So if that's what they want, that's fine.
Right.
Then you're not going to be coming to us. That's not who we are. That's not what we're offering. And so, really, that's the question. If you just want to take a pain pill, or you just want to take an anxiety pill, maybe that's good temporarily. Maybe you need that on a temporary basis, but do you want to be dependent on that for the rest of your life? That's the other question. Do you want to be dependent on that, where you have to get a prescription for the rest of your life and then deal with the consequences, which and that's what we need to be able to tell them also. You take this medication for years, it's going to affect your brain, your cognition, your memory. So with any of the anti-anxiety or any of those kind of antidepressants, there are long-term consequences. HRT, there are long-term consequences also. How many people come off of them in 5 years or less when they're supposed to? They're not supposed to be on those more than 5 years. That's it. And when you are on it longer, there's more gallbladder issues, other internal issues, breast cancer. It's just like all these other things. They're not working in alignment with your body. Right. And that was one thing too that I wanted to bring up, is that when we were talking about our biology and our thought, we actually have the capacity to create our own hormones. We have the capacity to produce any kind of anti-anxiety medication, pain medication in our own body. We produce our own opiates. They have actually measured that different meditative techniques bring out, you have a whole pharmacy in here, and that you may need something to help get you through the worst of it, but then let your body take over. Learn ways of having your body take over. Your adrenal glands are supposed to take over a lot of the work that the ovaries were doing. And there are different foodstuffs and supplements that can also, and that's what I did eventually anyway, is use the soy for the estrogen. I use in my practice some very specialized nutritionals that are called protomorphogens, which help to communicate with the pituitary, thyroid, adrenal, ovary, help the communication network so that you can start recognizing what you're lacking and be able to produce it. So there are a lot of things out there, supplement and herbal wise, that can help with that. And
do you mind taking just a moment? I mean, interrupt, but I just wanted to step back because we've been talking about supplements, but I hadn't heard of, what is it?
Protomorphogens.
Yeah, just a second. Tell us a bit more about what those are.
This is what actually got me through that period of time. There was one, so Standard Process is the company that I worked with. It's all all on an organic farm, and they do herbal and nutritional supplements. So they produce these protomorphogens, which are prototypes of each different organ system. And there are some, the simplex F is the female, and they have simplex M, which is the male. And they work to, like I said, improve the communication and build healthy cells within those organs. You can also get them for each individual organ. So there'll be a prototype for the thyroid and a prototype for the heart. The one I'm talking about is the hormonal organs. But I took the adrenal one and the simplex F for a long time to help me make that transition to where my body was doing it on its own. And now I use ashwagandha, which is, I recommend that to all the women that are experiencing emotional symptoms. Ashwagandha is amazing, and it helps them produce the testosterone, helps with the libido, it helps with the emotional anxiety, depression. It's kind of an all-round one of the most important supplements. The only people who can't take it, if you have a severe autoimmune challenge, they don't recommend it. I'm not really sure of the research on that, so I can't speak to it, except I've read that, but I take it every day.
And what I want to reemphasize too is we can take the hormones and the supplements and even our medications, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. And when you work on the energy and the vibration and all of that work that we've been talking about on this episode, all what that does is that it makes what we're supplementing with and it makes it even more effective. That's going to work better as it's intended, because we are, as I say, remodeling our own house. We're coming out, we're clearing out, energetically, and clearing out the emotional, debris. And creating that space so that the helping things that come in, whether it be the supplements or the hormones or the medication or just the new energies and the new emotions that are coming in, the looking into the future and creating that positive future, that all helps build and create something new. But getting back to all, because I know that there are women that are hearing, I'll just take my ashwagandha, or I'll just look into this supplement and just kind of brush aside.
Right. Well, that's why we say mind, body, spirit. It's not just one piece. So this week I'm doing a class on pain. And, from my perspective, pain is like one of the easiest things to deal with because I've just been doing it for so many years. But if you don't change your mindset, you're still going to be chased by different physical problems. They're not going to go away. It's not just about the pain. Why do you have the pain? So the pain is just the warning sign. Most people think that's the problem. One of the things that I learned in chiropractic school, they always would say, well, if your car was running out of gas and you cut the line from the gas tank to your dashboard and it no longer said that you were out of gas and you kept driving, what would happen? Take ibuprofen and the pain's gone. Problem gone.
Right, there you go.
I'm good. But it comes back. Usually, I wouldn't say 100%, but most of the time it's going to come back, So, and even if it's years later with pain, if you don't deal with it then, and it comes back, it starts coming back with more of a vengeance every time. Mm-hmm. Because the body's trying to give you, okay, you didn't deal with it last time, I'm going to put it out there again, and it gets worse. And then you have to deal with degeneration of the organ or the spinal system, wherever the pain is, because it's not going, the pain may have gone away, but the problem was still there.
Oh, this conversation is just so amazing. I just love how we're talking about the body and the mind and the connection and how it all operates together. I just love that conversation. So if somebody wanted to work with you, how do you work with them if they're not, located in your location?
I only work virtually now. So my program is a course and coaching program. I present material so that they can do that in their own time and watch video, and that goes through the different diet, exercise, all the different components that we talked about today, mind, body, spirit. All of it is on video, but then the coaching part helps them integrate it into their life so that they get the practice and integration. And that's where I come in. But that way I can work with more women. On my website, they can do a free consult. They can log in, askmeanythingaging.com, askmeanythingaging.com, and they can either contact me or schedule a free consult so that we can talk about the program or whatever their needs are and go from there.
Okay, that's great. My takeaway today is I just love the conversation that we've had on so many ways to see the connection between not only our thoughts, our vibration, how it's connected to our body, how our body reacts to that, how that we can create our own frequency in order to change the dynamic of what we're going through today. And we can do that at any time during the course of the day, as long as we're tuning into what's going on around us. And I just love that there are women out there like us that can share this message. And I think that we attract women into our lives that want that same connection, that want to grow more in those areas. And these ladies really need to hear that there is help out there, that they can do this, that they can change the way that their menopausal journey looks today just by doing some of these practices that we talk about. I mean, every day on our podcast, we have amazing doctors and coaches and that talk about either supplements or exercise or food, or today, like we're talking about our body mind connection. And it's just so important that we get that message out there. So I'm just so thankful.
That's great. Thank you. And I'm just bowled over by the quality of providers and the types of things that are being done in the menopause community.
I'm so glad we had this conversation because it's all three of our backgrounds, area of expertise. I mean, we're so used to just talking about body, what's going on with our body, and maybe a little bit of thinking, but the emotional side of it, the spiritual side of it, that is so incredibly powerful. And like I said earlier, there's different ways that we have to get us to help get women there and help guide you through working through this stuff. And it's like renovating this beautiful house that there's stuff that's been neglected. There's been rooms we haven't looked at that have grown cobwebby, but probably we don't need to be carrying this stuff around anymore. And I look at it like just clearing out the stuff. What do we keep? What do we get rid of? And that way we're able to bring in and start training our hearts and our minds and our emotions towards uplifting feelings where we can raise that vibration and start bringing in and start noticing that our bodies feel better, our circumstances improve every day in every way. We get just a little bit better and better. And so if you're interested in sharing Dr. Manon, how to get a hold of her, and with Robin, mindbodycoaching.biz, you can look at what I do at martidaly.com and reach out to any of us. If you're in the menopause support group, send us a message. You're allowed to do that. We're happy to help. And if I don't know how to help, or if it's not really my area of expertise, I know who to send you to, because we've got some amazing, like Dr. Manon, like Robin, like the rest of the ladies that we've talked to, some really wonderful caring providers in this group who just want to help, who want to, share what they know, because we're not alone. We're all going through this together in various stages, and we just want to reach out our hands, help the women that are reaching back.
I did want to say one of the things that I really want the message to go through, but so many women in menopause feel like their life is like coming towards an end, and I want to help you feel and regenerate where you're just starting your life. You're just starting. I went back to school in my 60s. I am almost 70 now. I actually have more energy and feel better now than I did 20 years ago. I used to get sick all the time and have colds, and I have not gotten COVID one time. I have not had a cold in years. So, this energy stuff really works, and we can all help you shift your thoughts so you can grow old and be happy and healthy, at the same time. You ask some people, like, do you want to live to 150? Really, if you ask, people will go, oh, no way, because all they think about was you live that old, you're going to be decrepit, you're going to have really bad health, you're just like what we typically think of. But in a lot of cultures, like what I was talking about earlier in the blue zones, people who live this healthy, happy life, they can live into the hundreds and they feel great. So now's the time to start. That's what Marti had asked. When do you start? Start now.
Right now.
Today.
Wonderful.
Every day and every way. And it's just one step at a time. It's just being aware that you are making movements forward. And instead of hovering back into a fear, shame mode, we don't want to go backwards. We want to go forwards, and we're here to help you. Thank you so much for being on with us. And I'm just so grateful that we get to have these conversations, and thank you for being with us. So lastly, if you see this podcast and you know somebody that it can help, please share, subscribe. The podcasts are also on Apple, it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Facebook. Yes. So we have them all over the place. And so we're just inviting you to listen. Thank you, Marti. Thank you, Dr. Manon, for being on with us. And here we are, Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
Thank you for joining us in the Menowave Lounge. If you'd like to connect with Marti, Robin, our guests, or any of our expert Menowave Care Providers for personalized advice and support, head on over to our website at menowave.org and fill out an assessment that will match you with a provider who knows just how to help. Remember, you don't have to face menopause alone. Our team is here to provide the guidance and care you deserve. So, take that step towards reclaiming your well-being and connect with a Menowave Care Provider today. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations.